It's like the paradox of comfort zones. Everybody's motivated to stay in a comfort zone. You got to get past the motivation. Some people do whatever they can and they'll go out of their way to just stay comfortable, right? They'll even subconsciously create different outcomes and situations that pulls them back into the comfort zone. And so it's one of those things where on the other side of it, you realize that, man, all of fulfillment, excitement, passion, enthusiasm, all those emotions that we want to have, not the anxiety, the depression, the worry, all those kind of things. All those desirable emotions are on the other side of the comfort zone. It's when you're progressing. I always say it's when you're giving and when you're growing. And I remember even getting to a place where it's like I had been doing that for so long. I was so comfortable that we could still have great growth, but it was like something that I was doing over and over again. And so when I stepped out of that, it was kind of like, it was uncomfortable, but man, the fulfillment that's tied to when you're actually doing something new is exciting. And so I definitely went from the person that was like the national sales guy that was teaching everybody. That was what my day was full of, was hopping on Zoom calls, going and speaking at conferences and meetings, and being the coach to being the one that is coached. And I think that's what it reminded me of, is like we always should be coaching and being coached, no matter what. So right now, my goal and desire is to get around the people that have done really well and get into those rooms. Paid more to get in these, extra rooms where there was masterminds and I could connect with people and say, hey, tell me, what do you know? What did you do? What was the biggest setback for you? What do I not know that I need to become aware of? If you're starting day one and you're talking to yourself, getting going, what would be the advice you would give yourself now that you're 10 years, they're 15 years, 20 years in the business, and they're like, man, step here, don't step there. And I know the power of acceleration to getting to somewhere.
I just think so many people are held back, not only due to like comparison, like, well, I'm not them, therefore I can't, but also like that lack of information is just what holds so many people back. So I think that's freeing to know, like, if I just take action, I'm gonna end up being further ahead than trying. It's like studying for the driver's test, right? It's like, well, dude, you can learn that booklet all you want, but if you never drive, what good is all that information for, right? It's like when we started the ministry, it's like, man, all these people are coming like, hey, man, we're interested in learning more about God. We're growing our relationship with Jesus. Like, are you going to start the church? Like, what's happening? It's like, well, I need to know, like, the cost of rent in the city, and I need to know like X, Y. It's like, well, dude, let's just start ministering to people and see what happens. And then boom, next thing you know, and then we're figuring it out
as you go.
Grow.
Exactly.
Here we are. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Leveled Up Life podcast. As always, Branamier Courtney here with Paul McClain.
My man.
Every single week bringing you value in all the areas of your life that matter most, whether it's your faith, your family, your fitness, your finance, or your franchise. We do our best every single week just to try to help you level up, try to get to that next space where, on the inside where you're being called to. There's different levels, man, that we're trying to help people get to. So
Amen.
Every single week, man, we sit down and try to do our best just to pour into people. Hopefully you got the volume loud enough to hear us loud and clear. You got your notebooks out. Take some notes. Note takers are money makers, man.
That's right, dude.
Every single week we could say something good, but if you're not writing it down or at least listening back to it, you're going to forget it because life is loud. So you got to get the truth. You got to get the truth in, man. It's so easy to believe a lie of the enemy, right?
I agree.
If that lie is speaking to you more than the truth speaking to you, you're going to end up believing the lie. And so, man, we're going to speak some truth into you right now. Dude, one of these topics, I mean, we talk about so many, like a range of different things, right? Whether it's like we just said, your faith, your family, all that good stuff. Today, I want to talk specifically to you, man, because you're one of those people that, like, when you do something, you go all in. Like most people, when they think about starting a business or starting something new, they dabble their toes, right? Dude, you ain't no dabbling. Like, you're one of the dudes that's like, I'm doing a cannonball. I'm going all in. And you've been that way your whole life, at least since I've known you. And so we're going to talk about, like, real estate today. Because, dude, you ain't messing around, bro. Like, I know it's something that you've been doing for a while now, kind of like undercover. You've been buying properties and flipping houses for probably, 15 years now, at least?
I'd probably say like 13, 12 years. Yeah, something like that.
12, 13 years. But now, from at least my perspective, dude, you're going to conferences, like you're investing, you're buying programs. So I kind of, you asked me, what should we talk about? I was like, bro, let's talk about what you're learning, kind of what you're doing, what's the new space you're stepping into. A lot of people know you as like the sales guy or like a business coach, or your Instagram's full of like faith and inspiration. But dude, you're killing it right now in real estate. So I kind of want to jump into that.
Well, let me say this. I have dabbled,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So be clear, I've fallen into the trap of like analysis paralysis, where you're looking at something. In fact, when I sold the business, back in like 2022 or 2020, I stayed on board for a couple years, and I left that, and in that 12-month process, I had like 82 ideas, bro. Like I wanted to do this. If I saw a business, I'm like, I want to get that business, scale the business. Like I had all these things going on, and I kind of was living what I've talked about a lot, which is like, man, you don't really know unless you do.
Yeah.
And execution is where all the money's made. That's where all the impact happens. That's where everything good. That's where the level is accomplished, grabbed, attained, and the gap is crossed is in the action. And so, it was probably maybe like a couple months back, I was like, do I really want to kind of go full throttle with the real estate and kind of unpack that and get into it? Man, I've been in insurance for 16 years. And by the way, go take a look at last week's podcast on identity if you haven't watched it. I mean, it was so good. And the truth is, in that transition of being in insurance for 16 years, my identity was really rooted and tied to that. And so Jeff, as he spoke about, and we unpacked that last week, I mean, that's the stuff that I had to walk through to kind of be like, man, I didn't know that I had a big part of my identity tied to what I was doing. But when I transitioned out of that, I was like, kind of like lost myself somewhat, because I was known as a person that would, recruit, teach people how to recruit and sell and train at a high level. And that's all I did every day. And so just wanted to put that out there, be like, nah, I cannonballed now, but I did sit back and dabble and kind of think about it. And I just want to encourage everybody on here, man, like whatever you're thinking would be the next best thing for you to do when it comes to any of your life. But let's talk specifically financially, right? In your franchise, you might be doing something, but you've got a passion, right? You're working a 9-to-5 job, or you're doing anything that, has got you to a cap, so to speak, or a lid. And you're like, I want to lift the lid. I want to be able to do more, have more, create better memories, give more, donate more, all those kind of things. Take this step on in that. And what I found, Brandon, is like a lot of people, when they think about a part-time opportunity to kind of help accelerate their financial situation or get to a place of financial freedom, I believe every viewer on here would all agree that financial freedom would be a great thing to have, where you're not having to make decisions based off money, but you can make decisions based off what you want to do, what you want to give, and the experience you want to create. I think most people would say real estate is probably the most common thing to point to.
Right.
And in fact, the statistics show that 90% of millionaires have a real estate portfolio. And so if you're looking to go out there and create a 7-figure income, and you're like, what could I do on the side? We'll kind of go through that today, but like real estate is a great opportunity to do that.
Right.
And so for the first like 15 years, it probably was about 15 years of me making the money actively in my business and then putting money back into my business to create the passive income with recruits and agents that were selling. I eventually got to a place where I was taking disposable cash and I was placing it into real estate properties that I would buy and hold. So my goal was like to get 1 or 2 properties each year, every single year with the disposable cash. The goal was to buy them, put 20% down, get a loan, place a tenant in it, have the tenant get to have a good enough deal on that property where what the tenant was paying, it was minimally covering the mortgage payment. In most cases, I was able to get a good enough deal by just kind of looking at the market, talking to people, where I could create, 10, 20% above what my loan was to create some cash flow, right? Which worked out great. And I was able to create a 7-figure portfolio in real estate by buying and holding. But that doesn't create passive income or active income. You're not actually
crushing in cash flow necessarily.
No, you're not cash flowing anything for quite a while, because you got to put down 20%,
breaks, you got an AC goes out.
Dude,
like there goes your year.
You got property tax, insurance. I mean, there's good tax deductions and stuff, but you look at if you buy a house for, say, and the crazy thing is, man, I bought a lot of those houses for $100,000. This is going back to like 2010, 2012, and $100,000 to like 150, 180 grand is really where I bought most of those houses. But you're still putting down 25, 30 grand, and you're not going to net that in the difference between their payment and what you're renting it out for. So you're really not cash flowing anything, not getting back what you put in. So it's the opposite of active. It's just really what's the best place to park my money. The tenant's paying the mortgage. I've got a little bit of cash, so I got some good tax deductions, and it's going to appreciate most of the time.
Right.
I mean, you look at like real estate over decades.
Right.
There's never like, we're like, man, I bought a house 20 years ago and it's worth less. I mean, it's hard to even do that after 6, 7 years. Usually it's always going to appreciate. So that was kind of the focus, but I've shifted to more of like, the active part, which is buying, fixing, flipping, or wholesaling, doing sub two and some of those things. And so we can definitely unpack those kind of topics,
Yeah.
which,
No, I love it. I think, I remember just like watching shows like Fix or Flip, right? But way back in the day, I don't know if you ever watched that, or you see all these like guys on TV flipping, and there's always like that interest in it. But it's like if you're doing your own thing, like for me, I was doing like janitorial or the ministry or whatever I was doing. So you see these guys like, oh, I just made, or even like the real estate shows, like, oh, we just made 150,000 commission. You're like, what the heck? Like I want to get into real estate, but it seems like there's so much involved in it, or I don't have the cash to do it, or I just don't know the knowledge or where to turn to. But now it's like, especially with social media, you see so many different guys doing it, and then to see you actively jump into it and really focus on it, it's not only like attainable, but it's like it's inspiring because like you're learning a new skill, right? I think that's what so many people struggle with. It's like, well, I don't know how to do it, so therefore they don't take any action in the thing. They just stay content with wherever they're at, right? But it's like, man, if you want to level up in any area of life, there has to be some sort of investment in not
Yeah.
only education but financially, like in the product or the thing you're trying to get into. So I've seen you invest. You've been going to Vegas and going to Ryan Pineda's events a couple
Yeah.
times, getting around the right people. You've always been someone that's like on the phone all the time, right? In your other business, but now it's like a different conversation I hear you having regarding properties and just all the different things. So talk to us a little bit about like the shift, not necessarily like from insurance to real estate, because it's like you're still dealing with people,
Right.
but talk about like the mentality to go from one industry to the other. Is it the same focus and intention, or is it like you feel like the beginner, right? Because for a long time, you've been the dude on top, kind of teaching everyone else, and it's easy to like get comfortable because
Yeah.
you're cursed with knowledge. It's like, oh, why don't you get this? Like it seems so easy, but to the new person, it's like, well, dude, I don't understand. I'm not
Yeah.
you. Like, do you feel like that new person going
Yeah.
to the new industry, or is
Yeah,
like,
dude.
how's that
That
shift?
that's a great question, man. Absolutely. And the crazy thing is like it's like the paradox of comfort zones.
Yeah,
Like everybody's motivated to stay in a comfort zone. You got to get past the motivation. Some people do whatever they can, and they'll go out of their way to just stay comfortable,
right.
right? They'll even subconsciously create different outcomes and situations that pulls them back into the comfort zone. And so it's one of those things where, on the other side of it, you realize that, man, all of fulfillment, excitement, passion, enthusiasm, all those emotions that we want to have, not the anxiety, the depression,
Right.
the worry, all those kind of things. All those desirable emotions are on the other side of the comfort zone. It's when you're progressing. I always say it's when you're giving and when you're growing. And I remember even getting to a place where it's like I had been doing that for so long. I was so comfortable with it. We could still have great growth, but it was like something that I was doing over and over again. And so when I stepped out of that, it was kind of like it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But man, the fulfillment that's tied to when you're actually doing something new is exciting. And so I definitely went from the person that was like the national sales guy that was teaching everybody. That was what my day was full of, was hopping on Zoom calls, going and speaking at conferences and meetings, and being the coach to being the one that is coached.
Right.
And I think that's what it reminded me of is like we always should be coaching and being coached, no matter what. Like, so right now, my goal and desire is to get around the people that have done really well and get into those rooms. A lot of the podcasts we've spoken about has been from what we were doing as we started something. Now it was all basically hindsight of like, this is what the success formula was to get to seven figures and do these things. Now it's like I'm reliving what was trained about, and it's pretty cool, man, because it's like I get to see exactly what was talked about in a fresh new way because I'm doing it. And so the moment I said like, listen, this is what I want to do, I think this is going to be a great space for me to walk into. I started to implement the stuff that we've talked about, right? And so I went and got into the programs. I went to these conventions, paid more to get in these, extra rooms where there was masterminds and I could connect with people and say, hey, tell me, what do you know? What did you do? What was the biggest setback for you? What do I not know that I need to become aware of? If you're starting day one and you're talking to yourself, getting going, what would be the advice you would give yourself now that you're 10 years? Because some of these people were me in the insurance industry, right? They're 15 years, 20 years in the business, and they're like, man, step here, don't step there. And I know the power of acceleration to getting to somewhere. So like what most people don't get, I think, is like it costs you something. So if you try to figure out something on your own and you're like, I'm saving money because I don't have a coach or I'm not going to these meetings, No, you're definitely spending way more money with your time, the energy. And if you could get to a place where you're making, say 500 grand or 700 grand or a million, or whatever it is, and you can get there 5 years sooner, right? And start making that kind of income because you've accelerated the path to get to the right skill set and knowledge and understanding of what to do and how to do it. If you could accelerate that 5 years, what is that worth?
Right.
If you're making an extra 500-600
Right.
grand a year for 5 years sooner. So to me, like I always am trying to sell myself on the right way to see things because it's so easy to get caught in comfortability and scarcity and say, well, let me just take a slower step. So I got to actually sell myself, dude. I got to
Right.
stop and say, like, let me think this through. If I don't spend this, what does it actually cost me? Opposed to my emotion says, I'm fearful to spend this because what if I
Right.
don't get it back? Or what if this doesn't work? Or what if I put on a credit card and it doesn't come back?
Right.
Opposed to, no, let me assume that what if I knew it was going to work without a shadow of a doubt? Then what would I do? And if I did that, what's the possible outcome?
Right.
And now I'm sold on the fact that, okay, I need to take the uncomfortable step, not the step that seemed a lot more comfortable, right? And so I think that's man, that's such a great question because I was stuck back into that space of like, should I? Do I need to know more? Wait, once I know a little bit more, then I'll be willing to drop this or do that. And it's like, no, 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 no. That's not the truth.
Right.
So I had to kind of get past that and say, all right, I don't have to learn more to eventually take my first step. The one point I'd make on that, dude, is like, I think the people that go after and start seeing their goals and dreams come to pass, one of the commonalities is their knowing threshold is lower. What they need to know in order to do is at a lower threshold. Everybody's got that threshold,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're like, dude, go do the tithe message at church. Like I've got to, going back years,
Yeah, I
I
can
had
see you
it,
a minute before.
but I have to have some kind of knowing to
Right.
do, right? But now am I the person that's going to say, dude, ask me in about a month and a half. Let me go ahead and research and read and,
Yeah.
pray. Like, or I could say, no, my learning threshold needs to be, maybe a day I spend
Right.
time on this and then I'm going to go out there and execute. And so I think that you got to lower your threshold of what you think you need to know before you actually do. Because what I've seen as I've taken these steps, and we've got 7 deals that are getting flipped. We got deals under contract. I've got a couple that I'm going back and forth with wholesale. Dude, I've learned so much messing it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just like figuring it all out. And I think that you kind of came to me like, hey, let's talk about it. I'm like, well, I'm in it.
Right.
And what I realized is like when I was telling you earlier before this, when I did the 8 steps to final expense in home with the insurance side, like dude, my first video, I was in it, man. I was out there selling and writing 40,000 a month. And I had like an iPhone 5 at the time. Dude, Peyton actually edited the video. She was like 11 at the
Right.
time because I was like, you edited it. I didn't have the time. And dude, it was the most poorly produced video ever. And it had like almost 1 million views with all the different platforms. And then I cut another one after I'd been out 5 years. I had, dude, the right lights. Dude, it was on the stage downstairs.
Unproduced.
Dude, it was I was like, this is good. And it didn't have nearly as many views. I don't think it was as good just because I wasn't in it. So
That's good.
I'm not going to pretend to be the full expert on it all, but I can
Right.
definitely talk to you about exactly what it looks like.
What do you think is like? I love what you said. Like there is a need to know. So I think most people don't execute on things because they think what they need to know is so much before they take any action. And that's what holds people back from actually doing the
100%.
thing.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So it's like, how do you get to the point where you're like, okay, how do I just move forward without having the thought of I need to know everything? Because I think that's for many people. It's like even me. Like I listen to real estate. I'm like, dude, I know nothing about it.
hmm
Like literally zero about it. So like, dude, I'm not gonna move forward. I'm not gonna jump into that. I got this going on, this going on. Like, dude, I don't know enough to move forward. You're like, dude, this is literally what I do. You just pick up the phone, like this is the script, right? So it's not even a script, it's just a
Yeah.
conversation, which okay, I could do that, just like not even thinking about it. But I think most people are just stuck with this thought, like I don't know enough, therefore I won't.
Yeah.
So like, what's the how does someone break out of that? Is it just messing up enough times? Is it like just get over the fact that you're going to look dumb, like you're going to mess it up, and just like begin with the end in mind, kind of like
Yeah.
I'm gonna mess it up in the beginning, but just get over that because we all didn't know what we know now at some point. Like, is that what it is? Just like
Yeah.
action beats.
I think so. I think you got to act your way into feeling, and then the feeling shows up once you
Yeah.
put the action. But I think that go back and like, so for me, like go back and think about anything that you're good at now and what that process looked like.
Yeah.
And so I think for one, if you just kind of do that, it'll help you step out of what you're believing, which is not true, which is I need to know more before I do more. If you go back and look at anything that you're good at, right, you've learned the most by actually doing,
Yeah.
right? So once you've actually done something, I call it like the progression of perfection. So like once you've if you just sit there and you're trying to know and try to know and try to know, you're going to take all this time, energy, and emotion, which is all a cost. That's all an expense, man. Like time is so valuable, right? That's why we love you for joining us, Etri. We want to provide value because it's your time, right? That's the most valuable thing. And so, but when you spend all this time, once you finally take a step of action, what you realize is that all that stuff you thought was, you figured out wasn't, and all these things that you try to hypothesize, they weren't. So it's like
Yeah.
if you were just to take the action right away, reflected upon experience is what's going to progress you the most, then you could say, okay, I did this. What did this teach me? What did I take from it? You're going to get a lot closer to perfection by doing it that way, you
Really
know?
good.
And I remember doing a John Maxwell exchange experiment where we were out there and he had us it was groups of people, like groups of 7, and we were doing these pit crews, right? So we had like 5 cars. It was at Hendricks Motorsports in North Carolina. It was a pretty cool setting, and first we didn't know like, okay, why are we like changing a tire? Like, what does this
Right.
have to do with anything? So we did the experiment first, and so he's like, all right, you guys all talk for like, I think it was like 45 minutes, dude, about like who's gonna do what, like, cause it's a race. Like who's gonna, take the
Right.
tire off? Who's gonna pass the tire on? Who's gonna bring the new tire on? Who's gonna get the lug nuts? All that stuff. And so we spent all that time, and then we did it, and dude, like I can't remember the exact times, but you want to be around like 12 or 15 seconds.
Right.
Dude, we were like 30, 40 seconds. It was terrible. And then he said, you're going to spend just 5 minutes talking about what you learned and do it again. And dude, all of our times, not just one,
Right.
every one of them had dropped by like 20 seconds. And the whole concept was like, if you would have just done it and not wasted all that other time, it would have
100%.
been almost the exact same outcome.
If you would have just said ready, set, go, change his tire, you guys would have just figured it out in less time than
Yeah.
trying to figure out who's gonna do what order it is. I love that, man, because it's like, um, I just think so many people are held back, not only due to like comparison, like, well, I'm not them, therefore I can't, but also like that lack of information is just what holds so many people back. So I think that's freeing to know, like, if I just take action, I'm gonna end up being further ahead than trying. It's like studying for the driver's test, right? It's like, well, dude, you can learn that booklet all you want,
Yeah.
but if you never drive, what good is all that information for, right? It's like when we started the ministry, it's like, man, all these people are coming, like, hey, man, we're interested in learning more about God, and like, we're growing our relationship with Jesus. Like, are you going to start the church? Like, what's happening? It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
well, I need to know, like, the cost of rent in the city, and I need to know like X, Y. It's like, well, dude, let's just start ministering to people and see what happens. And then boom, next thing you know, and then we're figuring it out
As
as
you
we
go.
grow. And
Exactly.
here we are, leaps and bounds ahead of probably most people who are just like, oh, well, let's do all this stuff
Perfect example.
first.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, now we got it down. Let's open the doors. And I was like,
Yeah, let's wait to
here
get
comes
the
mom and
let's
dad
wait to
coming
get the
in.
building.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
like,
like, dude, we're in the parking
we
lot.
didn't even have a building.
Yeah.
We were just like, dude, here's the start date. Let's figure it out.
That's how it's got to work with
Let's do
everything.
it. I love it, man. Talk to us about a little, maybe like you said, you're in the trenches now, you're going through it. Like, I know you're not the expert, like, but like you're in it right now. So I know this term like seller finance or like subject to kind of real
Yeah.
estate is I've heard this kind of term a lot. Talk to us about that, what that looks like how could someone uh, almost essentially like buy a property without any money,
Yeah.
right? It's like finding these people who, for whatever reason, want to sell their house. Maybe they're moving out of state. Maybe they're getting ready to lose the house. Like, talk to us about like how you're finding these deals, what that looks like, and how can someone literally buy or take over a house with no money? Like,
Yeah.
what does that look like?
Well, I'll give you guys actually a couple like real examples that I'm doing right now so we can unpack them. For one, it's like you got to find the person, right? It's like anything. Like
Yeah.
what's the hardest thing in selling is prospecting. Dude, it's what
Yeah.
it comes down to anything though. Like, the person that is knocking on doors all day and they're trying to find an interested person, well, how much time do they have left to actually do what makes them money and creates the impact and provide the service? It's a leftover. It's a crumbs, dude. Like I spent all day trying to find an interested person. And so like when I got into space, I thought the same thing. Like, and there wasn't a lot of people that were attacking the lead like part of it. They were like calling data, looking at lists, foreclosure list, all those things. I'm not saying that was wrong, but like, dude, I'm not gonna sit.
Right.
I understand the time money equation and trade off. Either you've got a bunch of time and you don't have enough money, so you're gonna just call the data, knock doors until you build it up, or if you've got a little bit of funds to put out there, well, then you could buy your time back by having a qualified person. And so I took the same philosophy with insurance, which was like we were big on leads. I wanted to be able to know that every week I could predict what I was going to make, because if I had 40 leads to call, and every 40 leads I could get a hold of 20 people on the phone. If I got 20 people on the phone, I would book 15 appointments. So I booked 15 appointments. I'd sit with 10. If I sit with 10, I'd close 7, and I'm going to make $7,000. I invested 1,000, I net 6. Like I loved that, dude. So like for me, I wanted security and like knowing like it was predictable. And so we started the same kind of campaigns similar to like what we did in insurance. And what I did is we got the leads all out there in different areas. We can run them through Facebook and different campaigns. Same thing with the CRM. It's essential to be able to be organized and structured. So the CRM has already been built out and established, and so you can put somebody that comes in as a lead, they get automation, so that helps offload the thing that takes time, that doesn't really make money, which is shooting out text messages and emails and follow-up. So it kind of helps to lift the load in the follow-up process. And so two things. One was leads generated through Facebook. The second thing was like looking at the MLS. And so for anybody that's on here, you can just reach out. I've got a real estate agent that I work closely with, Frank. And so if you want to reach out and say, hey, I want some listings to find houses, and you can look at them and see what's a good deal. You just play around and look at what it's valued. You can go to Zillow, some of those basic things. Zillow's not crazy accurate, but it gives you at least a feel for it. Yeah. But so, you could reach out and start getting listings, and you can kind of start taking a look and seeing like, wow, that looks like a good deal, right? 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. It's like 280. That seems pretty good, because the median market's 440 on the high desert, right? And so you could do some of those kind of things. And we've got a couple deals that came from the MLS where the person just, the house was destroyed, right? They couldn't list it on the market and really have somebody come on board and get a loan. I mean, the inspector would call it all these things. And so they kind of really had to find a cash person, an investor. And so they're going to take a lot less, because they can't, their pool of people to buy is so much smaller. And then you're only talking about the people that have the cash to go do it, right? And so where if you're on the MLS, you got all these people that can get a loan. And so on the MLS, you'll find deals where they're distressed, or they want to move really quick. They want to get out. And so they're like, I'm going to take less because I need the escrow to close a lot quicker, right? So the first deal is to get an interested person. Once you get an interested person, then you assess the situation. So it's like, okay, I'll give you an example. So like one of them, Lorraine, so I was talking to her. Her husband passed away a year ago. She's like, Paul, I want to move in with my daughter. We want to move to a city that's kind of close by. The house hasn't been remodeled. It's not been touched. It's not in good shape. And I have it paid off. And so I was like, okay, well, do you want, cash for it? What are you looking to get? And so I'm just trying to figure out how I can help her. And she's like, well, yeah, I want to get X amount. I said, well, would you consider like a seller finance where, if you don't need the money, some clients or people we talk to, they're like, I need the full amount,
Right.
because I'm going to go to Mexico for 5 months and enjoy it all, spend it in Cabo or whatever. Some people are like, I don't need all that. I'm going to go put a little bit down at another property, or I'm going to just rent.
There's tax implications if they take all the money up front or whatever.
Sure, yeah, like capital gains that they'll have to take. And so I said, would you seller finance? She said, yeah. I said, would you do 7%? And she's like, yeah, I would do that. So now I don't have to put anything really down on it, very little, right? And if on this one, I'm putting down, I think, 25,000. But you can say, well, I don't have 25,000. Well, you can get a hard money loan, which if you need help with that, you could reach out and I can show you what that looks like. I mean, that's a whole different subject, but there's lenders that will give you money that's not based off of your credit. It's based off of the value of the house.
Right.
So they look at it and say, okay, the value of the house right now is worth, say the house, you're going to get it for 200. But after the remodel value, say it's 350. They're willing to give you the loan and give you a loan on the renovations, because they know that there's 125 grand in equity. So if there's a default payment, they just get the house. They'll finish fixing it up and make the 100 grand instead of you. So there's different ways where you can get the money. So this situation, it was like, okay, she could sell or finance. Another situation was the person, they have $160,000 loan, right? She's in Arizona, $160,000 loan. The house, it's probably worth like $250 after complete renovation, right? But if she were to sell on the market for 250, for one, she'd have to put money into it, like probably 30 grand, so it's about 200. After she sells it for 250, closing costs nationwide are around 10%. You get them lower nowadays, you get paying agent a little less, but let's just say it's 10%. 25 grand comes off the 250. She's at 225. She put 210, so she's walking away with 15 grand, but she's got to wait months to fix it up. She's got to list it on the market. It could take 4 months on the market. And she's like, I need to move because I want to move to be able to take care of, she said a family member that needs me to be living with them. And so for her, we took over the loan, and then instead of her netting 12 by doing all that weight, we just give her 5, and now we can go ahead and have a crew remodel. And she's like, this is great. I can get the loan off my hands. We took the loan over, so we didn't pay it off. Her loan was like, I think 2.9% interest or something crazy low. So we take the loan over. I think the payment's like, I can't remember exactly, but say it's $1,200 a month. We could put a tenant in there for $2,000 at $2,000 a month, make $800, and we only put down $7,000. You know what I mean? And so that's one option. And then the other one would be like if somebody, if you want to actually flip the house. So if you look at it, I suggest like, close by, like within your area. But let's just say you look at this house, the person's like, I just want to get out of here. I got this going on. I got that going on. Just whatever the motivating factor is for them to fill out a lead that says, we'll buy your house for cash, which means they want it quick. They said, so we looked at it, excuse me, and it was like, I'm trying to think of an actual real scenario. So, okay, Jacaranda. So it was 280,000, right? This is what the price was. We got a hard money loan. After remodel and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be probably like 50,000 to remodel the whole thing. Contractor, pay for material. So you had 280 to like 330,000, right? But the house will go for like 410,000. So 330. Now we got to get a hard money loan, which is like 10% interest, and you got to put a couple points down. So that's like another, say, 20 grand because we'll hold it for a couple months while it's remodeling. So that puts us at or a 350, 360. We'll get 410. You'll make $50,000. And so that's another way to do it. And I've had people say, well, how do you get a contractor and stuff like that? You can go on Thumbtack. You could post on your social media like, hey, you got any good handymen?
It's also just relationships, right? Just people, once you're in it, you start to meet the people who do something similar. Then you guys can, hey, you guys got a guy that could do this, or a seller that can buy.
Yeah, but it's not that deep. Yeah. But people will sit back and think, well, I can't do it because I don't have a contractor. Right. And it's like at the end of the day, like you could just send a message on social media and say, does anybody got a good handyman to recommend? Yeah. You get 4 of them out there, get the 4 estimates, and then you'll get a good perceptual contrast on what it actually should look like and be, and then you make your choice and you move forward. No,
I love it because number one, so it's finding like the right people, right? But then not only are you just finding the people, then you're actually providing a creative solution to help them out, right? So it's not just the traditional like let us sell your house as a regular agent and pay a commission. It's like no, we're trying to solve problems for people that can't sell it the traditional type of way. I just love that you're jumping into it. You're learning the business, like you're in the trenches right now, and it's cool to see, man. I think a lot of people, as they're looking for different ways to make money or provide extra income for their family, it's like this is a real way that you can start it right now. And I think that you're onto something big, right? You're on like the whole marketing aspect, social media aspect, finding the leads, kind of taking out what would be a stumbling block for most people. It's like, dude, I can't figure all that stuff out. It's like, no, you're in the process of creating something that's going to remove the barrier to entry, right, into the business, and just allow someone who has the ability to have a conversation with someone, make a good, income or extra money or just like whatever it is, just by providing creative solutions for us. So I think it's cool, man.
The one thing too, Brand, is like, so as you get a bunch of projects and stuff going on with hard money loans and stuff like that, if, it's like I'd rather give somebody I care about a good rate of return on their money than a bank or financial institution. So the cool thing is we've actually had, different people that say, hey, I've got 200 grand and I wouldn't mind 10% back on my money for over the next 12 months. Right. And then at the same time, they have the collateral of the house. They have a promissory note. They're first on deed. And so like it's the most guaranteed thing you could get. Like it's almost a dang near impossibility that somebody's not going to make the payment because you could take over the house and you're on title, so you're the one that owns it. And then there's always usually a personal guarantee on the back of it, whether that's another property to back it. So if anybody's interested in that, you could reach out, and I've got a good little community of people that we're building that are going out there and doing this stuff that we can kind of help you, partner with somebody that can give you that kind of return. The last thing I'd say too is, for anybody that's looking to step into it, we even have like different ways that we're building it out, very similar to how I did in insurance as far as the structure of it, where you can come on board and we can help you with leads and help you get going and teach you the way. And there's different partnerships, like a JV partnership where you just split the percentage after the house sells, but you can kind of, the entry fee, so to speak, is very low to get maybe your dream to come to pass, which is to step into real estate and get moving, whether that's making some active income or taking over a sub two and being able to kind of create passive income with very little down because of a certain situation. So it's just a numbers game, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got to go through it, but we have the whole sales system put in place. We have the lead generation, the CRM. And so anybody that wants to step into it and know more, you could, shoot a comment below or what have you, and we can reach out and kind of give you the next steps of what that looks like.
I would say most people who are listening to this right now, I would say if you're interested in real estate or just figuring out how to make extra money, Paul not only is one of the best teachers, I would say, that I've ever listened to or heard, and just the ability to take a complex or what seems to be a complex topic, whether it's in faith or insurance or real estate, and make it really simple and give practical ways to execute it. I would say that, dude, you're probably the best at teaching concepts that just like, oh, I get that now through analogies and stories. But not only are you a good teacher, dude, you got one of the biggest hearts that I've ever seen when it comes to just like caring for people. So if you're interested in real estate or just jumping into the game, send him a DM on his Instagram or comment below, because he'll probably call you and just figure out how he can help you. And if not, probably point you in the right direction. So if you're interested in that, I would definitely highly encourage you, whether you're trying to figure out how to make money anywhere else, like, hey, if this is piquing your interest, reach out and we'll get you connected. But I think this is good, man.
Sweet, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you, dude.
I love it.
Hey, by the way, the best person that kind of gets the most from it is the one that's teaching sometimes.
That's
and so
right.
I'm learning as I'm kind of going through it and talking to you
100%.
guys about it. But I think it's going to be a beautiful thing, man, to be able to go out there and expand. My vision is pretty big with watching people. I mean, the thing I loved about the space I was in before was really the success stories that would come from it.
Yeah.
The people that kind of stepped in that were like me, that was pumping septic tanks. Man, I just wanted a shot. I was making minimum wage. I had a baby coming, newly married. I'm like, dude,
Right.
life is like,
Something has to happen.
yeah, I got some weight.
Yeah.
Like, I got to figure out how to get through all this. And because I had a shot, that's all I needed was just somebody to say, hey, there's an industry, there's a way to do this. Let me show you the the footsteps to get there. And once I did that, and somebody was willing to serve me and help me out, my passion was how many people can I reach down and kind of say, hey, you could do this too. It doesn't matter what your background is, where you come from, because God knows, man, my background wasn't great from like the age of 12 to like 19, but it just could say, hey, it doesn't matter what it looks like, there's a path to success, there's a path to get to your next level. Let me show you the way forward. And I think that's the most rewarding and gratifying thing is when you're growing by doing something new, and then you're giving by showing somebody how to kind of get to the place that
100%.
you've gone to, because you've been in the same place that they were before. And so guys, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share this, guys, every single, and bless as many people as we possibly can. That is a direct result of really your ability to share this so more people can see it that normally wouldn't see it if you didn't simply share the podcast. And so, Brian, I appreciate you, bro. Next week, we got to dive into the book of the Philippines.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
It's my favorite book. You just did a whole
faith.
4 weeks into it.
Yeah.
And, man, it was unbelievable. And I think that those scriptures in that book, man, they resonate, they speak to people, and especially in today's world with anxiety and stress at such a high level, and it gives you such clear, practical ways of how to find contentment in all seasons and
100%.
how to meditate on the right things. And so I think us unpacking that would be a great thing and serve everybody as well. So, guys, appreciate you.
Cool. Love you guys.
Love you.
Have a great day.
All right, see you guys.